Welcome, everyone, to Latter Daily Digest. We honor creators, and we have back with us the Mormon Atheist. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, how's it going, Gene? Randy,
Now,
how are you?
Are you
How are
okay
you?
if we use your name every now and then, or do you still want to be just the Mormon Atheist?
I don't really care. I don't care.
So we can call you any name we can think of. Bastard. No, I'm just kidding.
That's right.
And so also you're known as Derrek, right?
That's
and
right.
so
Yeah.
Derrek came on our show a little over a year ago. I had noticed that he was in the chat on a few of the shows that we were watching, like Mormonism Live, and he was talking about how he was excited about the scriptures and he wanted to start a study group. And so I said, well, Derrek, come on my show. You and I will be the study group, and we'll let the viewers comment after we do the show and contribute to the study group. And so you said that you had, and we can I'll put it in the description, a link to our first interview. You said that you had read the Bible in less than a month or something like that.
Right.
And then you decided to read the Book of Mormon, and in 2 weeks you were done with the Book of Mormon or something like that. And you were fascinated with connections you were making between the Bible and the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
And so you were
in the Book of Enoch.
And I'm not sure if you knew about the Book of Enoch right then.
I read the Book of Enoch first, and then I read the Bible. And then
okay. So the Book of Enoch first, and so you're realizing there's connections between these three books. But then we had your story, and then we talked about your first sort of class, we'll say, study group, and you peeled apart First Nephi chapter 1.
Right.
And you talked about different passages and how they relate to other things in the Bible or other things. And then as you're exploring these things, you, over the course of time, you love history, you started to get more books, and you were fascinated. People say you go down a rabbit hole, and you got into magic and other things since then, because the Joseph Smith's magic worldview is something that not many people knew about, that were like our grandparents, right? But right. Michael Quinn wrote a book, I think in the late 1980s, called Mormonism and the Magic Worldview. And people were saying, oh, that's anti-Mormon lies and different things. But you actually have a lot more information, and people can go to your channel and learn more about the magic that Joseph Smith practiced. Dan Vogel has done some things about those as well. And we might do a show where we pick apart one of Dan Vogel's episodes and see if we can drill down even more. So soon thereafter, Derrek got a really cool logo. I think it's like the best logo ever. It's way better than this StreamYard duck, I'll say it, and I hope they don't because I said that. And it's the what do you call that logo?
My logo is the Eye of Horus.
The Eye of Horus.
And what that means is it's the eye of truth.
And that is steeped in Egyptian God worship and lore. And some people say that like there's something in your brain that looks just like that on Ancient Aliens. I learned about that. But anyway, so we only did a few episodes because you decided that you would do your own show and do your own. And so tell us what you thought about coming on the show first, the very first time you were on, we'll say, national TV. How'd you feel, and what was your experience like?
All right. So,
and Derrek, just let me, because I have not met you before, and I know that there's probably listeners that haven't. Can we take a baby step back and maybe tell us? You go by the Mormon Atheist. Are you Mormon?
Or like a 3-minute Mormon story.
Yeah. Are you Mormon, and are you atheist?
So my 3-minute elevator Mormon pitch is, yes, I am a Mormon. I was born and raised in the cult. My family very much to this day is all in it. When I was 9 years old, right? So I was supposed to be baptized, or I got baptized when I was 8, and I absolutely hated the fact that I had to get baptized. I hated it. When I was 9, I remember asking my dad, if Jesus is from the Middle East, why is he white? And he said to me, oh, yeah. That was it. That was it.
So did you hate getting baptized because you weren't allowed to wear a snorkel or a tank? Is that why you hated being baptized?
No, but I've never thought of that before. Yeah.
So, or you
No,
used to hate water and you've overcome it, and now you're in water every day, just about, right?
no, it was just because I never believed it. I never believed
Concept.
the story, right? I never believed it.
You
And
didn't.
so,
How could taking a bath wash my sins away?
well,
You don't even use soap.
I mean, I'm 8 years old, so I can't, I'm 48 now, so I can't like tell you back then or what was going through my mind at 8 years old. But I do know that when I was 9, this is what I said to my dad. And that is what I call, I got bit by the gadfly. The gadfly is the sting of knowledge, right? The sting of truth, right? And so I was bit by the gadfly. And so when I was like 11 or 12 or something, right? I've always been a history nerd, right? And the Mayan Indians were one of my very first nerd projects, right? Okay, in like junior high school. And so I knew, so back in the day when you would go into church, in the hallways, they would have paintings of the Egyptian, of pyramids, and then there'd be like a Mayan Indian like looking off out at the distance, and the pyramids like in the background, right?
And that was supposed to be a Book of Mormon scene.
Yeah, and so we were in church one Sunday, and I had just in school learned, about these things. And so I go to church, and it was just a complete, like, I wasn't thinking anything about it. I just was one of those things where you just, hey, I know what that is. Those are the Mayan pyramids. What are those doing up there? And I had no idea what the Nephi story was. I didn't care. I had no idea. You could have heard a pin drop in that place when I said that. And from that point on, I was kind of the apostate kid. Like nobody wanted me in their classes.
Yeah.
My Boy Scout leaders hated me.
That reminds me
I
of the
was,
story of the emperor with no clothes. It was the kid that said, "Hey, he's not wearing any clothes."
yeah.
So
Everybody
you were
else
thinking,
believed it.
you were
But
using your
Yeah,
brain back then, which is highly discouraged in the church.
yeah. And it really never went away. It just has always I've seen every Egyptian, Mayan, whatever documentary you can possibly imagine. I've seen probably 4 or 5 different times, each one of them. Like, I really get into this kind of stuff, right? And this is kind of my nerd. History is my nerd.
you still go
And
to
so
church. You become a deacon, teacher, and priest, and all that.
I made it to deacon, I think. My parents got divorced when I was like 13, I think, 12 or 13. And we went to church every single Sunday. We went every Wednesday. Never missed it from the time I was born till the day my parents got divorced. And when my parents got divorced, I was in pure freedom. I have never been, I do go through the years, right? I do go to like my nephew's baptisms, the blessings when the babies are born. I mean, I'm not a douchebag or anything. I mean, I
Right.
go there and
You
I was
support your
born.
family.
Yeah, I was born in it, so I know what it is. You know what I mean? And so I do respect it because look at what it is. Look at what it's became. I have immense amount of respect for it. I totally understand why Aleister Crowley was so envious of Joseph Smith. I get it. I get it.
Right. And so, where'd you go to high school, and did you do any college?
So I went to an alternative high school in Utah. Uh, so I didn't move to Utah until I was like 15. I moved to Utah. Um, and then so once I got to Utah, it was a complete culture shock because I moved to Sandy, Utah from Phoenix, Arizona, right? And
Oh my gosh.
it was like, and I went to the old Jordan High School is where I went to, and my class was the last graduating class from that school before they tore it down and built Jordan Commons. And then so yeah, so then I forgot what we were talking about. What were we
So
talking
did you
about?
think about going to college, and how did you
Oh,
come up with your career that you're in?
so I went to trade schools. I've been to like 4 different trade schools, and
Electrician.
electrician, commercial diving,
You're trading
non-destructive.
one trade for the next, is what I'm hearing.
No, the commercial diving and the non-destructive testing, those were, and the dive medic, those were all in like one.
Like you get a
What?
certificate.
Yeah, but they're 3 different certificates, but it's all in the same course, right?
Right.
Okay. And then so I got 3 different of those. Then I'm an electrician and a very, very amateur part-time researcher.
And did you get married to another Mormon?
No, I got married to a Colombian girl actually from Colombia in Miami. I
Right.
do have children from a person in Utah, but we never got married though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's where the Mormon comes from. What about the atheist part? When did you come to the conclusion that there was no God?
So I'm a Mormon atheist, okay? I don't believe in Mormonism. Mormon atheist, right? As far as being an atheist goes, I don't really like that word. I don't consider myself an atheist, and I really never have. I'm a non-believer, first of all, right? I'm a non-believer in the biblical God, but when you say that,
You don't
right?
profess a belief that there is no God. You just don't believe in a God, which is actually what atheism means.
Well, it's such a loaded question. This is why I don't like the word, right? It's
Yeah,
such a
well,
loaded
it's like
question.
I'm an unicornist because I don't
Yeah.
believe in unicorns, but
I
nobody
don't
ever
believe in the
thinks anything
biblical
about
God at
it.
all. No.
That's actually not a loaded question. That's your name that you go by, the moniker. That's the only reason I'm asking is if you are atheistic towards Mormonism or towards a higher power. Forget the God part.
Well, in that case, I'd say both. Right? For sure, the Mormonism.
Right.
Okay.
You
That's
don't
why
worship some other God that earthlings have come up with.
that's
You
the
don't
loaded
worship,
question part, right? I get into the ancient Greek stuff, right? So there's like
but you don't worship Zeus.
Eros Phosphorus. Every day I say Eros Phosphorus. Every day.
Okay. So you just throw it out there to the universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eros Phosphorus is the original God. The
Okay.
original.
Now back to my question. You
It's a whole other story.
You read the Book of Enoch, you read the Bible, and you read the Book of Mormon, and you wanted to do a class, and I invited you to come on and do a podcast. What did you think about coming on and doing a podcast for the first time ever?
I was really, really nervous because I never even watched YouTube. Like, I think when I came across you, I was just sitting home one day and I was like, well, let's watch YouTube. I've never watched YouTube before. And so I was just randomly watching it and I thought you were talking about the Book of Enoch. I watched you for 15 minutes and I seriously thought, and if you remember right, my message to you was, are you guys talking about the Book of Enoch? And you said, no, we're talking about the Book of Mormon. And I was like, what? This was before I had read or had finished or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. But anyways, I was just like, dude, I sat here and listened to you for 15 minutes and I completely thought you were talking about something totally different. And so that started the conversation. And to actually go on your show, I was like very nervous. I still, it gives me a great deal of anxiety actually to do these, to even do my own show. It's a great deal of anxiety, right? So,
and I think that it wasn't my show that you were watching, that where you said, "Is this about the Book of Enoch?" I think it was Mormonism Live, and you were in the chat and you were asking those questions, and I was saying, "No, they're talking about the Book of Mormon or whatever." And because I'm not smart enough to say anything that anybody would think related to the Book of Enoch, or barely even sometimes the Book of Mormon, as far as like a deep dive, right? My show is mostly about showing that other people are creative. But and so yes, we started talking, and I invited you to come on the show to do this thing, and yes, you were nervous. I remember, and then we did it. Meet the Mormon Atheist, or meet Derrek. I don't know. I think we did meet Derrek, because you didn't want your last name because you had family that you didn't want to really know that you were doing this stuff. You wanted to keep that
show, Gene, I've watched that show. I think I'm probably the only person that ever watches that show. It's got like 90 views, I think, from a year ago.
So you think you've watched it 90 times?
It is rough to watch, man. Because I've never done it before, right? So I'm all over the place. But what I'm trying to say is, you just got to get through. You got to choke through the episode to get it, and that is something that I very much recognize. I don't know how to do this kind of stuff, right? Like, I have information, I want to put it out there, and I'm not a salesman, right? I can't sell it. I'm just saying, hey, here's the stuff. Do with it what you will.
You have to ride a horse to learn how to ride a horse, and sometimes you get bucked off, right, Randy?
But yeah, I've been bucked off a number of horses. My dad would always say, "Get your ass back on that horse." Yeah. And I would, so that the horse didn't know that I was afraid.
That's right. Yeah. So Derrek was afraid of being on my show, but he got back on, and we did a couple more shows, and then he decided to do some of his own things. So, and you took a sort of a different approach than I took to promoting your show. I remember you doing a lot of shorts where you'd say, "Hey, I'm going to talk about the Book of Mormon. Share, like, and subscribe. You won't be sorry." And you just did a whole bunch of shows that said, let's talk about the Book of Mormon. Share and like my show, right? And get the word out. You were trying to build up and you did it pretty fast. You got to like 100 subscribers, I thought.
Yeah, so my subscribers still, I only have 400 subscribers, but I've got 50,000 views. And in the first 6 months, so I've had my channel for a year now. The first 6 months of the channel, I was doing it every week. I think it was every Sunday or something like that. And so I'm getting all these views, but I'm not getting any subscribers. And it was like, what the heck's going on here? How come? And then I started getting emails about how people really like what I'm saying to them, but there's no way they could ever subscribe to my channel because of my name. And they can't have that, right? And so I took that into very much consideration, right? And I was like, dude, I could have 10 times the subscribers. I only have 400 subscribers, and I have probably lost 400 subscribers.
Look, if your channel was called Your Favorite Mormon Uncle, you'd have a lot of subscribers.
I'd have a lot more subscribers, but I get emails all the time from people that are like, this is very interesting. I've never heard this before. And then the cool thing for me is when I actually have a few people that actually have gone out and bought these books that I've been talking about on my channel, and they have read them for themselves. And they actually come back to me and say, dude, That is amazing, because the stuff I talk about on my channel is not my opinion. It's what the book says. And so when I give you these stories and these books, these are not my opinions. Okay, that's very, very important. These are what the books, the magazines, the newspaper articles. I go through all this stuff and I look through everything. I play with names, I play with dates, I play with, and then I look up those names, I look up those dates. And if a book references another book, I go look up that book. I go look up that author. I do these rabbit trail searches, right? But to me, it's American history. It's not a. It's I'm trying to find out the truth of how Mormonism was really created and what for, right? And that is American history. And you know, not to be like a complete Debbie Downer on Mormonism, through reading these old books, it is absolutely astonishing to me how influential the Mormon migration was on the American West, just as a whole. I mean, all of those camps that they stopped in are now cities. Every place, the rivers, they're all, everything that they did, right? They went to California. They discovered the gold rush was discovered by the Mormons, the gold rush, right? So like all of this stuff is profoundly, it's the Mormons. So you have to give them an immense amount of credit for basically colonizing half of the United States of America, you know? And that is fact. That is fact.
So you're a by the book kind of guy.
Yeah.
You're a by the book kind of guy. You take information from books and disperse that on your program.
That's right.
But you don't inject your own opinion.
I do not inject my own opinion. Okay. In the show, when I'm talking about these books, I do very much have my own opinion for sure. But on my show, if you watch my channel, these are not my opinions. It's what the book says and how that relates to Mormonism, right? I'm interested. I'm not interested in Salmonic magic at all, but how it pertains to Mormonism, that's my interest. And what I've also found through this is when you're reading these old anti-Masonic books with an LDS ear, that's the key. The Masons hide this stuff in plain sight, but a religious person is never going to look at the occults. The occults are never going to look at religion, right?
But they're related.
They're so intertwined, it's sickening. And like, I forgot where I was going with that. So
and I was going to say, you know,
I'm thinking about other stuff and my mind just goes. Sorry.
Yeah, there's no truer scripture, in my opinion, than "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." That's
right.
The more you know about real history, the more free you will be. You will not be beholden to, let's say, 15 octogenarians in Salt Lake City anymore. You will be able to be your own man or your own woman and be free from some of that stuff. Yeah,
and when you read these anti-Masonic books, a lot of the names you have, like, follow the names: T.F. Talbot, Kimball.
Do you still have the stack of books next to you that you showed us earlier?
I do, yeah.
Show everybody the stack of books, and they'll know that at least you're strong. And
okay,
and
so well read.
They'll know that you must have a lot of time on your hand if you're reading all those books. That's what I'm going to say.
So here's some of them. Hey, this book you might find really interesting. You know what this is? Take a wild guess. What do you think that book is?
It's an interpretation of the Quran written by the magicians or
very close. This is the Book of Mormon. It's written in the Deseret Alphabet.
Oh.
The whole book is written like that. This book came out in 1857.
Does it have a
Wow.
pronunciation guide on how to say Nephi in the Deseret Alphabet, like the Book of
This
Mormon?
book, how I discovered this book was through another book written in 1889 by a guy named H. Bancroft. And he has in his book this picture right there. That he has a picture of that page right there in his book. And is what that
Deseret
page
Alphabet.
is. That is the deciphering page of how to decipher this book.
And who commissioned the Deseret Alphabet to be?
John Taylor and Brigham Young in the University of Deseret.
Nothing culty about that, huh?
No. Well, so think of the Antoine paper.
Right? Squiggly characters. That's right.
I did a whole show on this book. It's called The Character Page Book of Mormon. And I actually did a whole deep dive on the end. So in the middle, so it's an hour-long video, I think. The first half is talking about this book. The second half is talking about Charles Anton and the character page and the comparisons of who is Charles Anton, right? What is he? Who is he? What does he do, right? Why is he who he is? How does he correlate to Mormonism? Okay, and if you look this guy up, and if you actually research who Charles Anton is and what he is, and then you go back and you listen to the Martin Harris account. There's an account in Joel Tiffany's magazine on this same thing, and ask yourself, why would Joel Tiffany in that day, in that time, in that specific time, because he was trying to get a teaching space at the college, right, for ancient Greek.
Charles Anton?
Yes,
right.
in Columbia. So why would this guy put himself in that kind of a position in the first place? Why? You have to ask yourself that question. No effing way. No way would that guy do that to himself under those circumstances.
So you think Martin Harris made that up?
And then I came across this book. And I was like, wow.
So
That's
you would
a coincidence.
Derrek, you'd probably know the answer to this. What was the purpose of coming up with that language? Was it to keep outsiders from being able to read and know what's going on? Because it seems like that's anti-missionary.
So if you Google the Deseret Alphabet, a whole thing will come up, and it'll say that it's a language that they were trying to create that was like easier for people to write or something like this, right? Okay, well, they've been playing with words since day one, right? Reformed Egyptian, the Anton paper, the character page paper. You know, they've been playing with these things the whole time, right? So this is the divine language of Nephi. This is the language of Nephi. This is Reformed.
So you think they try to replicate the Reformed Egyptian?
Yeah, right. It's called the Deseret Alphabet. You can Google it and look it up on Wikipedia. There's a whole thing on it.
But what good came from that? What good came from it?
I don't know. Nobody even knows about it. Nobody's ever heard. I've been a Mormon my entire life, and I've never heard anybody ever talk about the Deseret Alphabet ever.
Now, on one hand,
it's a real thing.
On one hand, you could say, well, a lot of the converts that were coming from Sweden or France or other places, Germany, you know, they would, and everybody spoke maybe a lot of different languages. So they probably thought we should have a unifying language. Maybe that was the thing behind it. Plus, they thought that Mormons back at that time thought if anything that came into their mind and they were a leader, that's what God wanted them to do, right? And so, since they had that thought, they probably thought God wanted them to do some sort of language. But tell me more about the Anton characters really quickly. When you did your show, do you compare some of the Anton characters with magic characters?
No, I've tried to, but they don't line up.
Okay, so they
Yeah.
don't line up, and so
So I lie about that a little bit. There are some characters that line up with the like the language, the Enochian magic. It's Enochian magic is the language of the angels, and so you'll see it has the angel alphabet, right? Is what it is. You'll see some of those characters mixed in with a lot of these characters. You also see ancient Greek. You see, it's just a hodgepodge of different characters, really, is what it is.
right, Chaldaic and other things, we'll say.
It's a complete hodgepodge of just stuff,
So what is your favorite episode that you've ever done on your channel?
Did the Mormon founders murder William Morgan? That's my favorite episode because I go into some great detail on William Morgan and Joseph Smith and the comparisons of the two, and how in Solomon Southwick's book, let me get it for you right here. This book right here, he actually in this book says Smith from Vermont is the killer of Morgan. And in context, you actually know that he's talking about Joseph Smith. Lodum Lawson is the kidnapper, right? Let me see if I can pull some of this up for you, right?
You're saying that, Derek, you're saying that the juxtaposition between William Morris and Joseph Smith,
Morgan,
someone looks close at that, they would actually believe it's the same person.
Wait, say that again now. If Joseph Smith,
there's a lot of similarities between Joseph Smith.
Yeah, massive amounts of similarities.
And so is there a school of thought that it's the same individual?
No, there's not. My school of thought is that they are the same individual. I cannot place it. I can't prove it. I can't anything with it.
You feel it.
But what I can do with it is say there are tons and tons of similarities between these two people that it becomes very hard to disprove it. But I don't have like a smoking gun that says at this time on this day William Morgan became Joseph Smith. No, I don't have anything like that. But the similarities are so striking, and there's a lot of them. Just about anything you've ever heard about Joseph Smith, the 116 pages.
Did you do a show about the many lives?
I did. This is all in my show. This is all my channel's about. Everything I'm talking about this is what my channel is about. Is William Morgan, Freemasonry, and Salmonic magic, and how it pertains to Mormonism. I'm not interested in a lot of stuff, and there's a ton of stuff I don't know because, examples, I've never been married in the temple. So I don't know anything about, I've heard stuff, I've seen stuff, all this kind of stuff.
But you never experienced it.
But I've never personally experienced it. And, and then there's, when you get, a lot of these books have pictures, right? So here, I'll show they got pictures. Some of them have pictures, right?
Derek, there's a repentance process, and you can follow those steps and re-enter the kingdom of God and go to the temple someday.
Yeah. So.
And I got a bridge to sell you too, right?
Right.
Unless you're William Schoenberger. And
this book is 116. This book is 116 pages long. Okay. David Brainerd comes through and rewrites. He rewrites William Morgan's 116-page book into this book. Okay, now, one thing that I do highly recommend if anybody should ever choose to read these books is read the preface, because the preface is giving you the intent of why the author is writing the book. So without that, you have no guidance as to what the book is even about, right? So if you read any of these books that I ever talk about on any of my channels, it is so important that you read the preface, because the preface will tell you what the book is even on, what the intent of the author is in writing the book. And in Light on Masonry, David Brainerd's preface is stunning. It is stunning. And it's making the hair on my arm right now stand up. That's how good it is. All these books are phenomenal. And you know, the thing is I hate reading. I hate reading. I don't like to read at all. I hate it. But when it comes to this stuff, for some reason, the muse is speaking to me and I cannot stop. I can't stop. I hate reading. I can't express that enough to you. When I've read probably from the time I was probably 43 years old, in my entire life, I read The Outsiders. That was it, The Outsiders. And then I started reading all of these ancient myths and creation stories, and it just opened up. The gadfly, the muse hit me, and the muse spoke, and this is where she has led me. And I very much believe that William Morgan is an unsolved case. To this day, the case of William Morgan is unsolved. Solomon Southwick, Thurlow Weed, and a few others are talking about the abduction of William Morgan. Okay? All of the names that are in these books are the founders of Mormonism, but they're all being talked about as Masons because there's no Mormonism. This is 1826. There is no Mormonism, right? So all of these people are being talked about as Freemasons, not Mormons. That's very, very important. This is what I was talking about earlier. You have to listen to it with them, or you'll never see this. You'll read those names and they won't mean anything to you. But a Mormon reads those names and you're like, wait, what is this? What am I reading? Who is this?
Mormonism has adopted
in these books? Huh?
Mormonism has adopted so much of the Masonic rituals and principles and wording that it's no surprise to me.
Do you know what William Morgan is even talking about in his book? He's talking about in his book. So this book right here, Illustrations of Masonry, if you were to Google this book, it will come up as the signs and symbols and handshakes of Freemasonry, and William Morgan was exposing those secrets. There is so much more to this book. Is what he's doing is he's exposing the secrets of the Church of Masonry, right? David Brainerd in his book reiterates that over and over and over again. Solomon Southwick in his book, the entire anti-Masonic movement is created by this guy right here, Solomon Southwick. The reason why is because of what happened to William Morgan. That is the direct result of the anti-Masonic movement created by this guy right here, Solomon Southwick. Okay.
It was such a big deal. They would have elections in the United States in the early 1800s that were based on whether you're pro-Mason or anti-Mason. Wasn't there like an anti-Mason party?
Yes, it evolved into the anti-Masonic party, but the original reason it started was because what they did to William Morgan.
And you say that's tied with other Mormon founders. And it looks
the entire thing, the entire kidnapping of William Morgan, right? Where's my book? Now you're gonna make me dig through my notes. My book. So in my episode, I talk about the killer of Morgan, the kidnappers of Morgan. It's over and over and over in all these books, all of them, every single one of them. If you're talking anti-Masonic, you're talking William Morgan. All of them will tell you that Lodum Lawson is the kidnapper of William Morgan. Smith from Vermont is either the killer or the presumed killer of William Morgan. Now, here's the deal, though. Joseph Smith's first original church is called the Church of Christ, right? Everybody knows that. That's not a secret. The Church of Christ. All of these books are talking about the Church of Christ. all of them, all these anti-Masonic books are talking about the Church of Christ and how the Church of Christ assimilated these Masons because of the religion laws of the day in the 1820s, right? They assimilated these Masons and gave them cover as to the murder of William Morgan. That's what these books all say. They all say that.
It was almost like the witness protection program.
Yeah. So the Church of Christ assimilated these people for killing William Morgan, for exposing the Church of Masonry, which we could very much today call the LDS Church, right?
How was
And
he killed? How was he killed? What
they
manner
cut
of
his
death?
throat. They did a whole thing. It's a whole ceremony.
Okay,
And
this
the whole-
ties in incredibly, and that's what I knew you were going to say that, because in the Mormon ritual in the temple, and you mentioned you haven't been through the temple, but
Yeah.
they specifically say if you reveal these secrets, you will that your throat be cut, that your
Yeah.
bowels are disemboweled. It's all
That's-
taken right from Masonry. Joseph
Spread his
just
body
sent-
to the
planted
north.
it.
You spread it. So you do that, and you spread his body to the north. You spread it to the east. You spread it to the west, and you spread it to the south.
That's just to
It's
get
all
fertilizer out to the fields.
See,
That's
this is what I need help with. Okay, I need the audience's help. I've never been to these things. I've never been what Randy, what you just said. Okay, I could tell you a million stories in these books of that same thing, but how that pertains to Mormonism, I've never experienced. I don't know.
Hey,
So
you
that's
would
what
be-
I need help with.
You want
You
your
would be
channel to be
amazed.
crowdsourced, so that people can almost like Wikipedia, right? Is just
Yes, and this is kind of the study group that I want to form. Is I want to introduce people into these things, right? And say, hey, all I'm asking you to do is read them and give me your input. If I'm wrong, 100% I will accept it. I'll eat crow. I'll come on the show. I'll say, Gene read the book and his take is totally different. But you can actually go on my messages in my chats on my page or whatever, and you can see that people have bought these books and then they comment. It's exactly the way you said it was. Okay, these are not my opinions. Please, please, please understand that. It's what the book says. I'm not inserting, I'm not deleting, nothing. It's what the book says. And when these books say Lodum Lawson, we all know who Lodum Lawson is the kidnapper of Morgan. See, these are LDS names. T.F. Talbot, it's an LDS name. And they're literally all of them in these books are Mormon names that have something to do with the foundation of Mormonism. Gideon, we were talking earlier about the printing press, the guy, the printing press.
Grandin.
Yeah, that guy is in these books. He's in these books. Okay, why is he in these books? Right? Okay, one name, two names, that's coincidence. One book, two books, coincidence. But right now, as we speak, I can hold up right here. I can hold up this one. I can hold up this one, this one, this one. Where's the other ones? And they all say the same thing. All of them do.
You would be amazed if you Googled the LDS temple ritual. I call it a ritual, the endowment ceremony. You can find it online, and you Google the Masonic ceremony. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. I mean, there may be a word or two difference, but
That's
the
right.
5 points of
Innocent.
fellowship, the 5 points of fellowship are something very important in the temple.
Yeah.
You Google it, and the temple's not mentioned. It's a Masonic thing. It's
Yeah.
also dates back to the occult. So
this is the Church of Masonry, which when you say that the occult, we're specifically, very, very specifically talking Salmonic magic.
yeah.
Okay? The craft in Freemasonry is Salmonic magic, the magic of Solomon, right? what is the Nauvoo, the first temple that the Mormons built? If you look at
Kirkland
the
Temple.
dimensions of the Temple of Solomon in the Testaments and Treaties of Solomon, they're literally the exact same building. It's the exact same building, and they're building the New Jerusalem. Well, that's the entire Freemason mantra, right? Is the New Jerusalem, right? That's what the Mormons are doing, right? This is the Church of Masonry, and William Morgan died for releasing those secrets.
There you go.
He
So
died exactly how the temple says you're supposed to die.
cut your throat, tear your heart out,
Disembowel.
and
Yeah.
disembowel.
Yeah.
That's what like there's the hand in cupping shape.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
to hold your heart after you've cut it out.
Right.
Yeah.
Put your hand up.
Crazy.
And,
It was more graphic before Randy and I went through even.
yeah.
They would say more graphic words about it.
So I think I was showing you let's see, where's one of my other books here? Where's one more thing I want to show you before we go and we can end. Okay, let's do a little explanation here. So I'm going to tell everybody that when Joseph Smith died, he died with a Jupiter talisman in his pocket, right? The squiggly lines. Okay, this is the Key of Solomon, right? This is actually the Greater Key of Solomon. So if you take them both and you put them together, the Greater and Lesser Key, you get the claviculus grimoires or something like that. I forget, but it's also called the Lemegeton, right? But anyways, so here we go. Greater Key of Solomon. Okay. Here we have, I don't know if you guys can see that right here. That is the third pentacle of Jupiter in the Key of Solomon. Okay, that's the front side of the Joseph Smith Jupiter talisman. Now let's go to the back side of the Joseph Smith Jupiter talisman in the same book. Okay. In the same book. Okay, here we go. Here's the back side of the Joseph Smith Jupiter talisman. Right there.
And so very few people know that Joseph Smith carried that with him almost everywhere he went. He had a parchment that had some, we'll say, Salmonic magic emblems on it.
The parchment paper, if you want to get a really good deep dive into what those parchment papers are, Dr. Stephen Skinner has a book. The name of the book it's called something, it's a very long name, something Salmonic Magic by Rabbi somebody, right? It says it's by Rabbi somebody, right? But Stephen Skinner is who wrote the book. Okay. In that book, he talks about, and this was actually one of my very, very first references ever. I actually got an email back. This was the very first guy I ever talked to about any of this stuff, was him. I sent him an email, and like 30 minutes later, and like no kidding, I did it through academia.org or whatever that website is, right?
EDU.
I sent like 10 emails to occult, people that have PhDs on the occults. And he was the only one that wrote me back, and it was like immediate. Within 30 minutes, he wrote me back. And he says, I know exactly what those are. And he gives me this whole thing about what this is. And then he gives me his book and his page number and all that stuff. And there's a picture of it on there. And it's really cool, man. I was so surprised that just me, nobody, this scholar. And Stephen Skinner, the important thing is he's like all things occult, right? He's a PhD scholar, and he's a very, very, like, he goes in depth and he tells you all about those parchment papers and what they are. And so it's Salmonic magic. And that's from a national practitioner. He is a PhD practitioner in magic. Another thing, Nick Latursky, I've spoken with him several times. And it's controversial, let's say, but let's say he doesn't not fully disagree with me. So,
okay, there you go. Nick Latursky and Cheryl Bruno and somebody
Cheryl
else.
Bruno, no, that's a whole nother story.
I'm just saying that they wrote a book called can't remember. It had to do with Masonry and Mormonism in Nauvoo. I can't remember the title, but I'll include that in the link as well. But I'm just saying that Nick Latursky is involved in Mormon studies, and so just to let you know.
And
So
he
thanks,
is an
Derek.
actual practitioner. So he is an actual practitioner. So
Of current Masonic Freemasonry.
no, magic.
Oh, Nick Latursky practices magic. Okay,
Yes, he is a practitioner. Yeah.
there you go.
Anyone who is very observant watching this will see when you stood up, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but the logo that you have on your shirt is the same logo that you use. If you can you just pull your shirt up a little? And
Oh,
show me?
that's actually that's the Oakley.
Is this a
Oh,
different?
that's Oakley.
different
Okay.
logo?
That's
Same
Oakley.
shape.
Yeah, right. Well, hey, I'll take it. Yeah, it's on my shirt too. No, I don't have any merch. I don't have any. I'm not monetized. None of that stuff because I got
Okay.
stung, and that's actually why I started to tell you the 6 months. The 6 months, the first 6 months I had was every week. I got this sting, and it scared the living crap out of me. And I went away. I would do things here and there. But now I'm starting to see these other people, some of the people that told me I was nuts, right? It's happening to them now. And so I just was like, what a perfect time to come back.
Okay.
What a perfect time to come back.
So yeah, so
Because
you
I'm not
actually have,
monetized, and I will never be monetized because of what they did to me. And I will never, ever monetize my channel. And you can't.
is there a name of the episode where you talk about that more?
I don't really talk about it at all. But
Well,
I
you
talk
start
about,
off some shows, and I know that you've said some things about it. That's
I've mentioned it, yeah.
Somebody donated to you, and they wanted you to shut up about certain things.
Yeah.
That's what we'll say. So go look up the Mormon Atheist channel. Go find the references he has to those things. Check out the books that we've talked about. And thanks, Derek, for coming on the show. And everybody watching, like, share, and subscribe. Sharing is caring. You'll see the Mormon Atheist appear in chats, and he'll tell people to share, like, and subscribe, because a rising tide lifts all ships. And go ahead, Derek, if you have one last thing.
So one last thing is, when that happened, I had 250 subscribers. That's it. That's it. So I'm onto something to be shut up at 250 subscribers, or I am totally off base and they're just shutting me up to just get me out of space.
That's right. Or it was somebody else we know. I'm just teasing. Randy, we're going to have a last comment.
Just the fact that I really am going to read the books that you held up, because you've piqued my curiosity, well, my intrigue, because of the connection to the temple ceremony. So I appreciate that. I've learned something today, and
Yes.
I'll get back with you once I
would very much like your feedback as to what you think about these books and your honest opinion about them with the LDS here.
That's right. We'll do shows on it.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Right.
Thank you, Gene, for having me. And everybody, like and subscribe to the channel. Go to the Mormon Atheist, subscribe to Gene's channel.
And have a great rest of 2025. It's almost the middle of the year. Just one more week or so. All right. Bye-bye.